Alrighty, in this next video of Photoshop 101, we're going to go over the eraser tool and everything that's inside of its little panel here on the left hand side. So the eraser tool, if you press E, that's the hotkey for the eraser. It'll pop up. I use the eraser probably more than I should. I know a lot of people who talk about Photoshop and use it a lot, teach it. Always recommend not using the eraser tool because it is a destructive tool. It's going to literally destroy parts of your image. So if we were to erase, drag this around and erase this blue sky up here, then you don't have that as part of your image anymore. Then if you needed the full image, you'd have to re-download it or put it back in. Or if you've gone through a bunch of different layers and you add a bunch of different stuff and you've erased a bunch of different stuff, you don't have the access then to get that stuff back. But I do use it quite a bit because in the designs that I make the design once I finish it, I put it out there. I don't need to go back to the designs usually. So it's not a super big deal using the eraser tool. I wouldn't imagine that you guys would have any issues using it either in the work that you do, creating designs. But the first part of the eraser tool is pretty self-explanatory. It is the eraser. Same thing here up at the top bar. You've got the size that you can set your eraser to. You can also press the left and right bracket keys to make it bigger or larger, or bigger or smaller rather. You want to keep it set to brush. Don't change it to pencil. It's going to be like itty bitty thin, and you'll get little scratchy lines. It's not going to be straight. You can set it to block if you want, and it'll turn it into a square. That's not an issue, but usually just keeping it at brush is fine. Leave the opacity at 100%. I mean, it's going to erase 100% of that area. If you drop it down lower, it's not going to erase that full area. It's going to give you kind of like little weird light areas. Then you got to go over it a whole bunch. So just leave the opacity set to 100 at all times if you're using the eraser tool. Same as the flow. Leave the flow set to 100, smoothing at 0, and the brush angle doesn't matter because you're brushing with a circle. You can then just drag the brush across and erase whatever you want. Another little trick or tip, which I find to be a little bit easier, is to click somewhere and then hold down shift and click somewhere else, and it will erase a line directly across that, so you don't have to worry about going back and forth, and you can just hold down shift the entire time you're doing this. Now the object that we're trying to do is we're trying to get this sunflower to be free of the trees in the background and the sky in the background. So the main eraser tool will get us down to this point, which is pretty good. We can then also go to the background eraser tool. The background eraser tool is also a really good tool to use. You can set the brush size same as all the other things, so bracket keys up and down. You've got 3 different options here. You have this first option, which is going to be sampling continuous. You do not want to select this option because what it's going to do is inside the little circle here where the brush, where you got that plus sign, it's going to sample the color of whatever is touching that plus sign. So if we go into this yellow, it's going to sample that yellow and it's going to erase the yellow as well. We don't want that. We only want to erase the blue. So don't use this first option. The second option, sample once, is what you're going to want to use. The third option is sampling a background swatch. You don't want to really do that either. The limits that you can do, you're going to want to do find edges, especially if you're trying to outline something, erase the background completely from these things. That's your best option. Tolerance at 100, and the rest of this 0% for your angle, and then protective foreground color just leave unchecked. Essentially, we're going to sample an area that's not touching the yellow, so no space inside that circle is yellow, so we'll sample this blue area. And then hold down your mouse and then just drag it around, and it will eliminate all of this area around the flower. That's blue because we're sampling blue with 100% tolerance rate. Certain designs that aren't extremely contrasting, like this one, you have blue against yellow, so those are pretty good contrasting colors. You may run into the issue where you're erasing some of those colors. To fix that issue, all you have to do is turn your tolerance down. So if we say we turned our tolerance down to 20%, 19%, excuse me, we're gonna then sample this little black dark green area in the tree here, and we're gonna go around, and we're only at 20%, so it's not eliminating all of that green. So when you have colors that are not super contrasting, but you still want to find the edge of something and you want to eliminate it, lower your tolerance. We'll hit Control Z to bring that back. We'll set our tolerance back up to 100, and then we'll go back into this. So we've sampled this little blue section to eliminate that, and it's also sampling all of those greens. So it showed that the blue and the green were close enough colors to each other to be able to remove those, but it's still not removing any of the yellow because it's not a close enough color match to what our original sample was. So this is an extremely useful tool when trying to cut out an image that has, like, say, hair around like a woman or a man, when you're trying to eliminate the background completely. It's a very similar aspect to one of the earlier videos we did with the magic wand and the object selection and the quick selection tool. This just gives you a little bit more, using this background erase tool, a little bit more control over what you're selecting. It's a little bit easier to use. And then the last section of this would be the magic eraser tool. The magic eraser tool works a lot like the magic wand tool, except for it doesn't give you the little highlights, the little dotted lines that go around things. So you want to erase blue, you simply click the blue and it's going to erase all variations of that blue. Right now I had it set to, well, Control Z, a tolerance of 32. So when I clicked here, it took all blue colors that were within the color range, 32 color range of that blue. So if we set it to 100, it should eliminate all of the blue. So all of the blue went away. We're going to click on the green, all of the green went away. And then you can go on and eliminate some of these other little sections here. This black down here. And then obviously you're going to want to go through, seeing that tolerance was too much right there. It took out a lot of our yellow and brown here in the flower because we clicked on that. So what we do is we can set that tolerance down to 50 and give it a try. 50 was still a little bit too much, so say we go down to 15 and we give it a try. And the 15 worked a little bit better. So it's a lot of play with this. I don't like the magic eraser tool as much as I like the background eraser tool. It doesn't work as good because you can't control where it's going. It's just automatically selecting all colors of that sample size. So that is the eraser section in a nutshell. Again, a lot of people don't recommend using it just because it's a quote-unquote destructive method of modifying something or changing something, but it will do just fine for the things that you need or might need for creating your own designs. The next section that we're going to jump into is the paint bucket tool. It's a pretty straightforward section, very useful tool. So we'll jump into that in the next video.